Amidst the clashing cultures and the thundering hooves of the buffalo herd in the vastness of the American West lies a secret history of conquest entwined with survival and excellent complexes. This story, which since the history of American expansionism illustrates the complex interplay between racial supremacy, social Darwinism, and national destiny. In the 1800s and 1900s, as America began its unrelenting westward march, the ideologies of social Darwinism and racial supremacy swept along with it, influencing immigration, conquest, and scientific research. These ideas mixed with the nation's expansionist passion against the ideological backdrop of the doctrine of manifest destiny, which declared that it was Americans' divine right and duty to spread over the continent. In order to fully unravel the intricate web of American expansionism, we would dig deeply into the tremendous effects and beliefs on religion, immigration laws, and scientific understanding. The story of American expansionism is infused with the idea of manifest destiny, which holds that Americans have the divine mandate to colonize every corner of the continent. This ideological context created the conditions of the nation's expansionist passion to become entwined with the ideas of racial supremacy and social Darwinism. The financial incentives propelling westward migration, especially the rich trade in buffalo hide, entwined with manifest destiny, and the uprooting of Native Americans, exposing the intersection of profit-seeking, ideological defense, and the exclusion of Native American tribes. The persistent westward push was often made at the expense of indigenous populations that lived in the area for millennia. This was made possible by the idea of manifest destiny and the opportunity of economic wealth. Native Americans' traditional way of life were considered non-compatible with settlers' colonizing goals, so as a result, they were systematically displaced and marginalized. This expansionist impulse was concealed behind the rhetoric of racial supremacy and divine providence. This period's legacy continued to be a complicated and divisive part of American history, influencing discussions about land rights, cultural preservation, and the long-term effects of colonization. Racial ideologies provided the justification for the annexation of regions and the enslavement of Native American populations. Racial supremacy drove the government's assimilation goal, which was represented in laws like the Dawes Act of 1887. The Dawes Act embodied the dissolution of tribal sovereignty in the face of racialized assimilation policy, since it treated Native Americans as individuals and not as members of sovereign tribes. By forcing Native Americans to assimilate into mainstream American society and lose their cultural identities and traditional way of life, this patronizing approach attempted to assimilate them. Native American autonomy was further undermined by the Dawes Act distribution of land. It broke up formerly cohesive tribes and made it more difficult for them to preserve their traditional way of life, their self-governance, and cultural legacy. These policies had disastrous effects that were felt for many generations, sustaining cycles of marginalized and disenfranchisement that still impact many Native American communities to this day. Racism in science and the justification of discriminatory laws were fostered by social Darwinism. In order to legitimize discriminatory legislation such as the Chinese Exclusion Act and the Immigration Act of 1924, the concept of survival of the fittest was misrepresented and eugenics gained favor as a pseudo-scientific tool. These beliefs influenced disciplines like biology and anthropology and strengthened ideas like racial hierarchy. Additionally, they penetrated scientific discourse, giving racist belief the appearance of respectability and offering a foundation for the systematic discrimination of particular communities. Public policies and societal views were shaped for decades to come by the misuse of scientific theories and the falsification of factual data, which helped validate pre-existing prejudice and uphold the idea of white racial supremacy. Wide-ranging effects resulted from the distortion of scientific research, including the dehumanization of entire populations and the continuous of vicious cycles that still have an impact on modern society. The article Buffalo Hunters illustrates the relationship between manifest destiny, economic gain, and the marginalization of indigenous peoples by explaining how buffalo hunting was a major factor in driving Native American tribes to relocate and accelerating westward migration. The hunters' careless slaughter of numerous herds and the left of numerous bodies that rotted on the plains was further encouraged by the profitable trade in buffalo hides. In addition to destroying Native American tribes, the mass murder was a reflection of the general belief in racial supremacy and the ideas that manifest destiny was inevitable, which supported the eviction of indigenous peoples in the name of territorial conquest and economic opportunity. The National Archives' original source document sheds light on the Dawes Act and its expression of racial supremacy by depicting Native Americans as people who should be integrated into white society in order to undermine tribal sovereignty. The document, How Evolution Was Used to Support Scientific Racism, analyzes Darwin's theory in a context that emphasizes how racial beliefs were used to defend discriminatory practices and imperialist endeavors, highlighting the pervasive influence of social Darwinism on scientific thought and immigration policies. The legacy of racial supremacy and social Darwinism infuses American history, leaving a lasting impression on borders, immigration laws, and scientific debate. We must address the atrocities committed in the name of expansionism as we face the legacy of these ideas and forge a future based on justice and equality. Important lessons from the past can be applied to the future and the present. We may pave the way for a just society by examining how race, ideology, and power connect in the context of expansionism. We must pay attention to the lessons of the past as we negotiate the complexity of today's issues and work to create a future in which everyone is treated with respect, opportunity, and dignity. What does this future hold? We cannot illuminate a brighter tomorrow until we face the shadows of the past.